My name is Suzanne Johnson, 29 years old. I've been married for 3 years to my husband, Bob. He's 3 years older than me, and I met him in college. We were happy at the beginning, but now our relationship has grown cold. Is it because of what happened with the baby? It probably started when, 6 months into our marriage, I found out I was pregnant but ended up having a miscarriage. No, my baby. The doctor explained that it was a rare occurrence, but we had been so looking forward to the birth that it was hard to recover. On top of that, Bob blamed me for the miscarriage.
What? We were so excited about this baby. Did you do something to cause this?
Bob's parents were furious with him and showed concern for me, which helped me gradually recover. But Bob remained cold toward me. He started spending less and less time at home, using work as an excuse. Then, a few months after my miscarriage, my 31-year-old sister Helen gave birth to a baby girl.
I had a healthy baby girl. Isn't she cute? Make sure you give us a generous gift.
Hearing about Helen's birth announcement, even though she was supposed to be single, made me feel down. She's not married, so whose baby is it? Why did she get to have a healthy baby while I lost mine? Helen has always treated me as if she could boss me around, so we've grown distant, and I've come to dislike her. I should be happy about the baby's birth, but Helen asking for money makes it feel awkward. Still, if I didn't give her the gift she demanded, she'd cause a fuss later, so I gave more than the usual amount and kept my distance. 2 years passed, and Bob and I rarely spoke. Honestly, I often wondered why we were still married. Then one day, I found out that Bob and Helen were having an affair. If my niece is Bob's child, then this affair started right after our marriage? No way, I thought we were still a proper couple back then. Have I been betrayed this whole time? I can't keep living like this. Divorce? But I'm close to my in-laws, and I don't want to cut ties with them. But Bob is cheating on me. I had already lost my feelings for Bob, but I cherished his family, so I hesitated to get a divorce. However, one day, I suddenly learned that his parents had died. A fire took their lives? No, I was supposed to meet them today. I was overwhelmed by a deep sense of loss, but immediately tried to call Bob. Hello, something terrible has happened.
Stop calling me so many times. I told you not to contact me today. I'm on a trip with my parents to give back to them. Let me enjoy this time.
When he finally picked up, he hung up on me without even hearing what I had to say. I completely lost hope in Bob. I decided to divorce him and swore to get revenge. Bob had left for a trip yesterday.
I want to take my parents on a trip while they're still healthy. It's a 3-day trip, so make sure you keep up with the housework.
He usually said it was for work, but this time he told me not to bother him as he was taking his parents on a trip. However, I knew it was actually a secret trip with Helen and their child. How dare you use your parents as an excuse for your affair? I've had enough. I couldn't just leave things as they were, so I had arranged to meet his parents today to tell them about Bob. But then the fire happened. I almost broke down at the sudden news of their deaths, but my anger towards Bob kept me standing. He says he wants to give back to his parents, but he won't even listen to important matters. If he misses the funeral, it's on him. He'll regret this later. Since discovering the affair, I had packed the minimum necessary things. I'm glad I prepared just in case. He never checks his phone anyway, so I'll just leave a note. I left a note in the living room saying I was going to his grandparents' place, took my belongings, and left, never to return to this house again.
Suzanne, glad you made it. When will Bob be here?
His grandmother, who was preparing for the funeral, noticed me and called out. Well, he can't make it to the wake or the funeral. Realizing it was his parents' funeral made me sad all over again. You see, Bob told me he was going on a trip with his parents yesterday.
What?
Huh? But they were at home.
I also checked with the two of them, so Bob was lying. He went on a secret trip with my sister. I revealed Bob's affair to his grandparents, showing them the evidence recorded on my phone. I discovered Bob's affair purely by chance. He only comes home to eat dinner and sleep. Is there any point in being married like this? I work from home doing office work.
I can't do housework, but I'll try my best. Right now, I can't do anything without you, Suzanne, but I'll make it so you won't have to do any housework someday.
I'll teach you well, so I'm counting on you. That's what he said when we first got married. Even though I knew Bob was good at his job but lacked basic life skills, he was willing to learn and was gradually getting better. I started working from home to take care of the house, but without a commute, I can work more efficiently. I thought I'd go back to an office job once Bob got better at housework, but maybe I should just keep working from home. Bob was apparently an excellent salesperson at a major company, so he often came home late, leaving most of the housework to me.
Thanks for everything. The lunches you make are a big help. You must be tired, but can you teach me how to do housework on weekends?
Bob was always thoughtful and tried to learn housework, so I didn't see any problems. But after the miscarriage, Bob started coming home even later and working on weekends more often. We used to talk and enjoy meals together, but now he's silent. The atmosphere is tense, and whenever he does talk, it's just complaints about my cooking or criticism. How did it end up like this? At one point, I thought it was my fault. But as this lifestyle dragged on, I began to think something was off. Is it normal for work to suddenly get busier like this? It doesn't make sense for it to stay that way forever. He's also being stingy with household expenses. What's he spending it on? If he's just working, our income should be increasing. Bob earned more than me, so he had been contributing more to the household budget. But suddenly, he reduced the amount he was giving for living expenses.
You're the only one staying at home, right? I'm hardly ever here. I buy my own stuff. Do I really need to pay for living expenses? This much should be enough, right?
In that case, let's discuss it while going over the expenses. I was shocked by Bob's attitude, but I nervously suggested that we should have a proper discussion. However, Bob snapped back irritably.
What's there to discuss? You work from home, but I'm out there working as a salesperson, moving around all day. I work for a big company, but you just work for an ordinary one. You've got it a lot easier than me. You're working from home, so you're using the house money. I don't use it, so why should I be paying?
He got angry, and in the end, the amount he contributed to the household expenses became even less. If it had just been me, I would have blamed myself and not thought there was anything wrong. But Bob's parents were on my side.
I'm so sorry for my foolish son. It's not your fault. What on earth has happened to Bob?
If he can't protect his wife, what kind of husband is he? You're both working, but you're doing all the housework, right? He's never done housework at home. And yet, he doesn't protect you.
He wasn't like this in the past.
This isn't your responsibility. I always thought he was a considerate person.
Sometimes even his grandparents would join us, and the five of us would go out together. We had grown close. It seemed that all four of them couldn't forgive Bob for blaming me when I was devastated by the miscarriage. They really are good people. Bob used to be like this too, so why did he suddenly change? Even if the miscarriage was the trigger, if he didn't want to be with me, he could have just suggested a divorce. Thanks to his parents, I was able to think clearly and began to quietly observe Bob's behavior, which seemed suspicious. There's nothing suspicious in Bob's room. If there's anything, it might be in the bag he carries around. I subtly looked into things but found nothing, yet my suspicion remained. So it felt natural to peek at the notifications on his phone while he was in a deep sleep. That's when I discovered his affair with Helen. A message from Helen? Wanting to spend time together as a family. Does that mean Helen's child is Bob's? I used his finger while he was sleeping to unlock his phone, and I was stunned by what I found. We were married when that child was born, right? I thought everything was going well, but was he cheating on me this whole time? Is he staying away from home because he has a child with Helen? When we visited my parents' house, Bob would play with Helen's child and seemed to love her. I thought after a while, he'd want kids again, and we could go back to the way we used to be. Was he just showing affection because she was his own child? So he was lying about business trips to be with Helen. Bob and Helen's messages were like those of a married couple, planning their schedules and enjoying their time together. Helen knew Bob was my husband, so why? Wait, did she do it on purpose because he's my husband? Honestly, Helen had always taken my things and made fun of me, so I wasn't shocked to learn she was the mistress. But still, I had trusted Bob, so the betrayal stung. He was cheating on me. How could he cheat with my sister? Well, our marriage was already cold. Maybe it's time for a divorce. But if I do that, I'll lose the bond I've built with his parents. Because of my relationship with his family, I couldn't bring myself to consider divorce, but I took photos of all their phone exchanges as evidence. Since then, I've been monitoring Bob's phone, so I also recorded his and Helen's plans for the trip this time.
No way.
What? That jerk.
His grandparents were furious with Bob and also with Helen, who could do such a terrible thing. He didn't even listen when I told him about his parents' funeral. He'll probably be back tomorrow night. I don't want to be with him anymore, so I plan to file for divorce after the funeral.
That's the right choice. You shouldn't waste your life on someone like him.
If you need anything, we'll help. This can't be tolerated.
His grandparents nodded firmly. For now, we focused on ensuring the funeral was conducted smoothly. The following night, after all the preparations and notifications to relatives were finally completed, we were resting together at his grandparents' houses. Suddenly, Bob stormed in, looking furious.
What the hell are you doing here? Neglecting the houses? Stop bothering Grandpa and Grandma and get back home now.
When you suddenly disappeared, we got a call. Stop causing trouble for everyone.
Helen, holding her secret child, tried to feign innocence as she complained to me. Before I could respond, his grandfather furiously grabbed Bob.
You're the one causing trouble for everyone.
Grandpa, what's going on?
What's going on? You hung up on Suzanne without hearing her out. Everyone was suspicious during the funeral because their son wasn't there.
Wait, funeral? What are you talking about?
The house is burned down completely. Your mom and dad have passed away. I explained to Bob as I felt tears well up again.
No, they died?
Bob seemed to realize it wasn't a lie from our expressions and was shocked.
Then why didn't you tell me? You should have said something, Grandpa. Why do you believe her? She's lying.
He started blaming me, ignoring his own faults.
How dare you? I'm disappointed in you.
His grandfather scolded Bob. I have proof. Listen to this. I played the recorded phone call for Bob.
Why were you recording our calls?
I always record phone calls for work. Sometimes I get instructions over the phone. and having them recorded makes it easier to verify things. Since working from home, I started using a recording app.
Being a dutiful son, huh? Your actual parents died in the fire. So who were you really with? And that person with you is Suzanne's sister, right? Why are you with her?
Even Bob's kind grandmother accused him, leaving him dumbfounded. Though he tried to make excuses, the recording clearly captured his voice saying, "I'm on a trip with my parents to give back to them. Let me enjoy this time," proving he was completely lying. "You didn't want me interrupting your trip, right? Because you were on a secret getaway with Helen."
What are you suddenly accusing me of?
Helen, perhaps knowing her affair was wrong, tried to claim her innocence.
Yeah, she's your own sister. And how could you suspect me of cheating? That's just cruel.
Bob also acted like a victim, pretending there was no truth to it. But I showed them the records of their interactions saved on my phone. Can you still say that after seeing this?
What? What is this? Did you look through my phone without permission? Just because we're married, you think you can do anything?
Bob was shocked, but quickly turned the blame on to me.
You're the one who's messed up, acting all high and mighty when you're the one cheating.
His grandfather, enraged, slapped Bob hard.
I'm not in the wrong. Suzanne is always gloomy and couldn't even have kids. She doesn't even care about how she looks. Being around her just exhausts me.
Bob still claimed he was innocent and started acting out.
How dare you? Don't play the victim when you fail to help your struggling wife. Cheaters always have selfish excuses.
His grandfather easily restrained Bob. Having been a police officer, he had retired but kept in shape. So he held Bob down and began scolding him.
Do you know how much Suzanne has suffered until now? Losing a child is hardest on the mother, and you ran away to cheat.
We tried contacting you yesterday, but you wouldn't answer, so we asked Suzanne to reach out. You ignored her call when your own parents died and kept fooling around. Is that all your parents meant to you?
Even the usually calm grandparents were emotional and angry, likely because of their son's passing.
She should have told me right away.
Bob initially lashed out, but gradually quieted down under the intensity of their anger. Helen, too, who had only met his grandparents a few times, shrank back, observing the situation nervously. Once they finished their scolding, I finally declared my intention to divorce. "Bob, I'm divorcing you. You cheated, so I'm obviously going to demand compensation."
Fine. Our marriage barely felt like one anyway, and the compensation won't be much. I've always wanted to live with my own child.
Finally, we can live together. Bob has a good salary, and I'm in sales too, so we make more than average. Unlike you with your regular jobs, we have money.
Bob and Helen seemed to think it was no big deal.
Let's get married right after the divorce.
Yeah, finally, we can live the life I've dreamed of with our child.
They started talking about their future together, completely lost in their own world.
There's no way we'll approve of your marriage. Cheating with your sister's husband and having a child. What are you thinking?
I didn't think you'd go this far. You've lost all my respect.
What? Mom? Dad? Why?
Helen was shocked at the sudden voices of her parents. The truth was, when Bob and Helen had arrived, his grandparents had called my parents on their phones. I have something to discuss about Bob and Helen. I wanted to talk when things settled down. I had originally planned to consult his parents, and I had told mine the same. They had stayed silent for a while as requested, but finally couldn't hold back anymore.
Actually, I knew Bob from work. We've been acquainted for quite some time. And if things weren't going well with Suzanne, wouldn't marrying me solve everything?
What kind of nerve do you have? Saying that after cheating.
Helen tried to justify herself, but of course, no one took her side. Then my mom spoke up.
You were always bragging on social media, weren't you? I was shocked to see pictures of your grandchild on your posts. Raising a child should cost money, but you've been buying all sorts of expensive things. Why? And you were just using the kid to get attention online, weren't you? Sure, the pictures were cute, but it made me sick to watch.
My mom had previously asked me about starting a side business using social media. I had taught her how to use it, which is how she came across Helen's posts. It's true, she's bragging a lot. The posts were full of Helen showing off her belongings and her child. It's not that she's treating the child poorly, but it does seem like she's using the child, which makes me uncomfortable. But this also made me understand the situation with the secret child a bit more. She's only 2, but she's unusually quiet. Was it not just her personality, but also Helen's treatment that's off? Even now, with everyone yelling around her, she doesn't cry. Can that just be chalked up to her being quiet? I feel uneasy about Helen raising her child. Even now, she's still splurging on brand name goods. Helen used to take my things without regard and lack concern for others. She's living like she's still single even with a child. It doesn't feel like she's fully embraced motherhood. When you have kids, your appearance tends to take a hit compared to when you're single, right? Yet she's still fully made up and dressed in expensive clothes. Helen had said before,
I'm in the sales department now, so I have to look good. You should care more too. First impressions matter, so you need to spend money on your appearance. And your belongings should be high-end too.
there was some truth to her thinking, but it was overboard. And I often wondered how she managed to live alone like that. There's no way she could handle parenting in this state. So I followed my mom's lead in criticizing Helen. You're a mother now, but you're still living like you did when you were single? Are you serious about raising your child?
You don't get to lecture me. You couldn't even have kids, so stop acting all high and mighty.
Helen brought up my miscarriage to retort against me. Shouldn't you, of all people, understand how painful that is as a mother? I frowned at Helen's words, and both my mother and his grandmother got angry.
What are you saying? You, of all people, should know how much Suzanne suffered as her sister.
I can't trust you with a child.
What? Are you trying to ruin my happiness? And you're supposed to be my family.
You cheated with your sister's husband and even had a child. You have no right to say that. And you always leave the child with us on the weekends, saying it's for work. We're practically raising her for you.
Helen plays the victim, but it doesn't convince anyone. What? She's been having our parents take care of her child this whole time? So she was having an affair with Bob while they babysat, and she has the nerve to complain about how hard it is to raise a child? Since having her child, whenever Helen spoke to me, it was always without any consideration for my feelings.
Having your own kid is just the best. This little one is so calm and easy to take care of. She's such a thoughtful child. Oh, but you wouldn't understand that, would you?
Bob, too, showed no concern for me. While doting on his secret child, he would say things that seemed like subtle jabs at me.
She's so adorable. I always wanted kids once we got married, you know?
He knows how I felt, right? Why would he say that? Bob's words deeply hurt and saddened me. If not for the support of his parents, I would have continued to blame myself. But they're not here anymore. As I thought about it, I couldn't understand Bob's selfish whining, insisting he was not at fault. He's just staying quiet because he has nothing to say, right? He doesn't seem to be mourning his parents' death more than his own issues. Helen only met his parents once, but even when you hear that someone you know has passed away, shouldn't you be more affected? They're both so self-centered. Can these two really raise a child properly? It wasn't just me who thought this. My mother did too.
Fine. If you want to get married, go ahead. But we'll take custody of our grandchild. I don't think you two can raise a child.
This child is mine.
Then do it all by yourself without using us as a daycare.
Exactly. Bob was never the kind of man who could protect Suzanne even when they were married. I doubt he can protect a child now.
His grandfather glared at Bob as he spoke.
Bob never did housework, did he? Even if they say they'll raise the child together, they'll likely give up quickly. You can't deny it, can you? You were already cheating when things got tough during your marriage.
Initially, they insisted they could raise the child, but it seemed they found some truth in what everyone was saying.
Fine, you can have her. If I want another one, I'll just have one.
Yeah, starting a new life now, we won't have time to take care of a child anyway. Sure, take her.
They handed over the child to us without much resistance and prepared to leave. I'll be demanding alimony from both of you. I have the evidence, so you can't act like it never happened. I made sure to assert myself.
We'll pay it right away.
Do you even know how much I earn? I'm in sales and have been promoted, so I'll pay you quickly. You're just obsessed with money.
They laughed at me as they left the house. After that, I went to my parents' home, completed the necessary procedures for adopting the secret child, and finalizing the divorce. I started living alone near my parents' house, occasionally visiting my niece. At first, she was so quiet, but as I interacted with her more, she started to smile more often. My niece had hardly spoken before, but she has recently started calling my name and happily comes to me when she notices me. It must have been hard for this child to be with Helen and Bob. She's such a sweet kid, not like those two. I want to make sure she can live peacefully from now on. Knowing she was born out of an affair made it complicated, but I decided to love her as my niece. Later, while I was waiting for the alimony to be paid, I received a phone call from Bob and Helen.
Hey, what the hell? Why is the alimony so high?
Yeah, we just got married and our life is just starting. Paying that much will make things really tough.
Apparently, the amount was much higher than they had expected, and they couldn't accept it. I have proof of your affair, so that amount is fair. You said you earned more than me, so it should be easy, right?
I've already spent so much. It's not enough. It'll take months worth of salary. Even if I sell the stuff I bought for Helen, it won't be enough.
Isn't it a lie that the alimony costs that much? How are we supposed to enjoy our lives?
It seems Bob had spent a considerable amount of money on Helen and had no savings, and Helen had used up most of her earnings on leisure activities.
We didn't get a single penny from my parents' inheritance. I'm their son, so I should have gotten something.
They had been counting on his parents' inheritance, and this infuriated me. A son who didn't even attend the funeral doesn't get any inheritance. His grandparents are still healthy, and they trust them more than they would a cheater like Bob. How can he care more about money than his own parents? I realized I could never see eye to eye with Bob, who wasn't even mourning his parents. He continued with his selfish complaints.
Well, when we had the child, we received assistance from the government, but now that's gone. We shouldn't have given her up. Give her back now. She's my child.
What do you think your child is? A tool for getting money? There's no way I'll return her to such parents. Helen saw her child as nothing more than a means to get money, and it made my anger boil. She wants the child back for such a reason? There's no way she'll raise her properly. She's finally starting to smile more lately, but seeing Helen would ruin that. I felt frustration about how such people could even have a child when others couldn't. As I thought about this, they continued to complain.
All the relatives are cold toward us. Even if we try hard, paying the alimony is going to make things tough. You're single and well off, so you don't need to take the alimony, right?
Strange rumors are going around at work, and it's getting hard to get a promotion. My salary might even go down. Please.
You cheated, so of course, I'll take alimony. The relatives were all furious that you, their son, didn't attend the funeral.
You told them we went on a trip and didn't come back, didn't you? You should have covered it up better.
You're the one who hung up without listening to what I had to say.
Okay, I was wrong. But please, drop the alimony. He can't do any housework, and it's making things really hard for me. We don't have any savings, and it's even tough to buy food. We might become homeless if we can't pay rent. Wouldn't you feel bad if your sister ended up like that?
Helen cried, but I felt no sympathy. You brought this on yourselves, didn't you? Bob said he learned to do housework, but gave up because he found it too troublesome. You chose him, Helen. You need to take responsibility for what you did. I will get that alimony from you. And then I hung up without waiting for a response. I blocked both of their numbers and asked my lawyer to make sure they paid the alimony. After further explanation from the lawyer and more scolding from both his grandparents and my parents, they finally paid the alimony. It seems they even had to take out loans to pay it all at once. And with the situation now fully known at their workplace, they found it hard to stay there.
If I leave this place, where else can I find a job?
Helen is apparently holding on for dear life.
I can find a new job right away. I'll pay off the debt and live comfortably.
Bob quit his job and tried to find another one, but it seems he hasn't had any luck.
If you hadn't quit, we'd still have more money than we do now.
I thought I'd find a better place.
In the end, Bob couldn't secure a full-time job and is getting by with part-time work, and the two of them are constantly fighting. As for me, I'm enjoying my time while working and taking care of my niece. She's Helen's child, but she's so much cuter than Helen ever was. I still think it would be nice to have my own child someday. My niece has been smiling more lately. She's so adorable that I've started to want my own child again, even though I had given up on the idea. I thought I was sick of marriage, but if I meet the right person, maybe I'll get married again. While living a peaceful life, I hope that someday I'll remarry and raise children together with a supportive partner.